Hey, hello, how's it going? Welcome back to another 20 Minutes Till Dawn video. It's me, Cranberry. Hopefully you are doing well. What we're doing today, I've got a couple options on the table. What's actually funny is last night at like 2:30 in the morning, I tried to record this video, and I've had a couple different requests going on for various 20 Minute Till Dawn videos to do, and I tried to combine two requests into one video, and it didn't go very well. I have had someone by the name of Bananatron. Hello, Bananatron. Hopefully you're doing well. I've had them request that I do a Spark Salvo knife run, right? Not a ton of inherent synergy between the two weapons, but they're good enough. They're not. Spark is a good character. Salvo knives are a good weapon, so it's not too bad of a combination, right? But then I had someone else ask specifically. Let me see who it was actually. Specifically, someone by the name of Chill, and I think other people too have asked about it. But that's the most recent person to ask. They've asked me to do the temple map. Now the problem, as I learned with the temple map, is the salvo knives do not target the tentacles that the 5-minute boss spawns, which makes that fight really annoying. So if you're trying to beat the temple, I recommend not playing salvo knives. That's basically it. So today we're gonna be doing salvo knives. Next video we're gonna be doing the temple, I think. And as far as the build today, there's a couple different ways you can play Spark salvo knives, and the reason for that is there's no inherent required synergy build. It's not like dual SMG Spark where it's like, oh, I take the SMG evolution that synergizes with electricity better, right? There's no real specific build you have to play. They all work more or less well for you. The exception to that is probably there's not much reason to take the 1,000 knives build. It's actually, I would say it's more dependent. The evolution take is probably most dependent on the first tome that you see. That's probably the most important indicator. But as far as what we're actually doing here, let me show you the runes real quick. Nothing too crazy. We're opting for cadence because if we do end up taking the bouncing knives, or I think it's trick knives is the evolution. If we end up taking trick knives, we're gonna want cadence. And if we don't take trick knives, cadence is still fine either way. Right, so that's the idea there. Beyond that, glass cannon, elemental barrage, alacrity, all pretty normal stuff, nothing too crazy there. And then the shield side also pretty normal stuff, nothing too crazy as far as the build is concerned. So with that out of the way, let's play. And let's go to the pumpkin patch. What's actually interesting is that someone mentioned, I think it was specifically Bananatron, mentioned that the cool thing about the salvo knives is that you can run into the ground here and still target enemies. But it is important to note that it is much slower target acquisition, right? You can obviously move left and right to get more targets, but if you're just running down, you acquire targets much slower than if you're just moving around normally. Same thing for the temple map too. So I'm gonna keep in mind there. Now, all of these kind of suck for us. Nothing super incredible here. We'll take quick hands. Mini clip is pretty good, even if we don't go 1,000 knives. We don't need that much ammo, so mini clip's pretty good. And, the rest of those perks pretty stinky. Now, we should take some time and actually fully explain the evolutions here for the knives also. Do I want to take aim? I don't think so. Power shot's pretty good. So we should explain how the knives work. Basically, you move, you acquire targets, that's what those little squares are, right? And then you reload after you shoot. You do not acquire targets while standing still. If you see here, if I stand still, nothing happens. You have to move to acquire the new targets, right? Then you throw them. Salvo knives have a very weird interaction with cadence. You would expect that every third knife you throw would be a cadence knife. Instead, the way it works is madness is I think how I would describe it. Instead, the way it works is just pure insanity. Now, out of these choices, these all kind of suck. I think I'll take Arrow Magic. It's not a bad perk for us to have. It's more... Anyway, sorry. Cadence is very bizarre. The way I just think of it, and it might not be the way it actually works. The way I think of it, though, is just, it randomly decides to have your entire barrage of knives be upgraded knives. Ooh, Electro Mage is pretty good here. There might be some sort of inherent logic to it where it's like, it's keeping track of your third shot, internally, and whenever you fire on your third, or I guess on your third target acquisition, probably, And whenever you do end up firing on the correct acquisition, it then fires the barrage of knives. I don't know. I don't care to know. As far as I'm concerned, in practical play, it is just randomly, every once in a while, you throw out a big barrage of knives, right? Now, Cadence has infinite piercing. These also all suck for us, by the way. None of these perks are good. We want to avoid summon perks because we are not a summon build whatsoever. So out of evasive or magnetism, I will take evasive. Anyway, sorry. So, Cadence has infinite piercing. And the reason why that's relevant is because one of the evolutions for the knives is called trick knives. And it converts your piercing shots into bounce instead. So infinite pierce becomes infinite bounce, which is really cool. Here's the thing. Here's a fun little secret for you, if you didn't know. In a game like this, there is a much more, synergy is the wrong term for it. There's much more support for pierce. There's a lot more effects that give you pierce. There's only really, outside of specific weapon evolutions, if I remember correctly, I think there's really only 2 perks that give you bounce. There's two sources, I guess. There is rubber bullets, which is in the fire rate perk tree, right? It's the one that makes your bullets bounce and gives you a slight fire rate upgrade. Fun fact, that perk used to actually lower your bullet damage if you didn't know, way back when. It got buffed, so that way it does not increase your, or it does not decrease your bullet damage anymore. It now is purely net positive. I'll take Windborne here out of these options. Electro Bug, we're not, kind of a stinker. Even for a Spark build, not that good. But anyway, sorry. What was I saying? Oh yeah, bullet bounce. There's not many sources of it. There's really 2 sources. There's rubber bullets, which for a long time was barely worth the perk itself. Yeah, the weird thing too is that pierce and bounce don't synergize well. Because the way it ends up working... Ooh, let me take this, by the way. Well, electrical fire is very good for us here. Happy to have that. We don't really need the energize too much. Oh, there it is. Okay, we'll take it, I guess. The way it ends up playing out is... How do I describe... Basically, pierce happens first, and then if you consume all of your applications of pierce, then bullets begin to bounce. And the problem is that it was very easy to get pierce effects. They're plentiful in the game. There's a lot of different ways to get pierce, and because of that, especially Reaper rounds was a big issue with this type of build. Because Reaper rounds existed, if you had enough damage to outright kill enemies in a single shot, your bullets effectively had infinite pierce then too. You also have cadence, which every 3rd shot would have infinite pierce, right? So pierce was much more prevalent, and because of that, and it was also pretty strong, so because of that, it kind of cannibalized the purpose of bounce builds. The other source of bounce, by the way, outside of weapon evolutions, is the Tome of Elasticity, which does come with a pretty hefty downgrade to your bullet damage. That one comes with, I believe, if I remember correctly, negative 25% bullet damage. So... it's a high price to pay for a perk that oftentimes never end up even seeing like practical application because of the mechanics of the game, right? Between these 2, what do I want? Fresh Clip versus Split Fire. Fresh Clip is fine. You oftentimes do fire your bullets quickly after reloading, and we do need this for mini clip, and we do not hate kill clip. However, I think just raw power split fire is really good here. Just immediate impact, firing an extra shot is pretty powerful, even if we don't have great aim over where it goes. We don't aim in general. We should actually just kind of be aiming away from clusters of enemies while shooting, because that is kind of how we can aim the Salvo knife now. It just aims behind us, right? As you can see. What's interesting too, I'm noticing, the Salvo knife volley does not follow the same rules as, this is the first time I've ever noticed this, actually, which I think is kind of interesting. The Salvo knife does not follow the same rules as the normal barrage of knives. You can see, actually, usually, a couple of big knives in the mix of small knives getting fired out of my asshole right now. So that's kind of cool. I didn't notice that before. Anyway. What else is going on? I don't know. Trying to think. Now, one cool thing about having split fire here is that one thing that this weapon does suffer with is being able to directly aim your shots. Right? If you're trying to get target on a specific enemy, for example here, the reindeer, right? It can be a little tricky. But this does help a lot with that. Okay. This is interesting. I think, if you're asking me which of these we take, I think it's Tome of Stillness. Tome of Glass is fine. Trying to do big damage numbers is pretty good here. I think there's a very solid chance that from this point onwards, I will not take damage if we take this, right? But this adds an extra projectile, which is pretty cool. And the walk speed's not that big of a deal because we spend so much time moving around that standing still for a second to shoot is not that an issue, basically. Not a problem. Now, we are a bounce build, so Tome of Elasticity is fine, but the way this build really ends up playing, if we choose that route, we might still end up choosing the movement speed route, but with these tome choices, it's probably not the case. I think I like Tome of Stillness here, personally. The reason why I mentioned that, though, right, if we had seen Tome of Wind there, I think it's a pretty good sign that we should be actually going for the move speed knife build, right? The move speed knife build just kind of doubles down on Tome of Wind, basically, because one of the evolutions is effectively Tome of Wind. And the way I don't understand how they stack exactly, but from what I've seen, they stack very well. The actual just damage output, when you have, like, Tome of Speed with any of the weapon evolutions that give you more move speed damage boosts, it tends to be kind of ridiculous. Most things in this game tend to be additive when it comes to damage multipliers and things like that. But for some reason, I think Tome of Wind might just be multiplicative, which ends up usually giving you pretty crazy damage numbers. Because we're probably not going Tome of Wind here, I think at this point we probably don't care about haste. I think I just go for take aim at this point. I think that's fine. Again, we want piercing, and one of the take aim trees does give us a little bit of pierce, so that'll be good for us, I hope. But anyway, yeah, so that's the other build, is move speed build. If you get the Tome of Wind, it's incredibly strong. Even without it, though, it is a pretty good build still. Kind of goes to show here, too. You can pretty much... What do I take here, by the way? Probably Intense Burn. You can pretty much beat... Maybe not every map with every weapon. I did, like I said before at the start, I did, at 2:30 in the morning, I did lose a run with Spark Salvo Knife in the temple, but I you know, I think it is you know, that doesn't mean it's impossible to win with Spark Salvo Knife in the temple. I just think it's not a good map for her, right? But I think it's fair to say that you can beat any level in this game. What do I want here? I guess these give me the rubber bullets. I think it is fair to say you can beat any game, or any map with any character, with any weapon in this game, on Darkness level 15. I don't think that's a hard thing to do, per se. Certain characters are definitely harder than others. But a while back, I did a video, back before Haster was as good as she is now. Haster got a really big glow up when they fixed Feed the Beast, and she became one of the better characters, probably, in the game. But way back then, when Haster was considered, bar none, the worst character in the game. Pretty easily by me and by most people who I asked, at least. I think most people agreed Haster was the worst character in the game, because her summons were not very impactful compared to other summon characters. Also, for a while, summon builds had been pretty good consistently, but oftentimes one of the big driving forces for like bat gun builds was the fact that Lilith just had huge bonuses to, like, you know, huge innate bonuses to bat guns, right? That was a really big deal. Whereas Haster, all of her character-specific perks augmented her tentacles, and her tentacles were pretty bad, right? When you can increase the base damage of your tentacles by, like, you know, 20x over the course of a run, then she becomes quite a bit better. You know, when she's one-shotting with the tentacles, it's pretty cool. When the tentacles are an insignificant blip on the radar that is your run, though, a little bit spooky. Also, hold on, we're getting kind of swarmed here. Okay. I guess out of these, give me the Electro Bug. These all kind of suck perk-wise. Gotta remember I gotta keep moving too. Important part of this build, I gotta keep moving so that way I keep firing more knives. It's very easy to get kind of hemmed in here. And to forget that you have to actually move to generate your projectiles. Anywho. What was I saying? I got distracted. Hold on. Oh. Here's level 20, which is a big deal for us. We get our evolution, and we'll take trick knives here. Right? If you want to see them all, there's wind knife we were talking about before. It's basically a tome of wind built into your weapon. Stacks really well with other tomes of wind. If we had seen tome of wind here, we probably would go the wind knife build. Instead, we're going to go trick knives here, which convert our pierce into bounce. Bounce is better than pierce. So because of that, we're taking this. 1,000 knives is a bit of a meme. It doesn't really have a place, right? Because if you want the move speed, you're probably taking wind knife, right? There's not many builds where you take 1,000 knives instead. So, you know. Trick knife. Trick knife it is here. Oh, hold on. And you can see once we get those bouncing procs there, they're gonna go all over the place. It's gonna clear out enemies pretty easily for the most part. The thing we're still gonna struggle with though, especially in fights where there's not many targets, is single target damage. We'll take a penetration here. That's where we're gonna have trouble though, right? Now luckily for us, the pumpkin patch boss is much easier than the temple boss. I guess I'll take Soothing Warmth here. One important thing to note as well with the temple boss, I think I mentioned it at the start, but maybe I forgot to mention it. I don't remember now. But the fact that her knives do not target the tentacles she creates is not good. That is a big issue. I guess we'll take Reflex here. It doesn't matter too much. All those perks kinda stinky. But anywho. But anyway, yeah, this is it's not a super synergistic build, which I am curious. I am curious why Bananatron was so curious to see this build. Maybe it's just a combination they like a lot, which is perfectly fine. I guess out of these I'll take Arm and Ready. Doesn't matter too much. Yeah, it's not like, it's not nearly as synergistic as something like dual SMGs with Spark, or even like Flame Cannon Spark. Things like that tend to be a little bit more of what the character's trying to do, but again, every character in this game can beat every level with any weapon. At Darkness level 15 for sure. Sometimes just get a little unlucky. Sometimes it's 2:30 in the morning and you shouldn't be recording that late and you're getting very sleepy. So, it is what it is. But we're at the point where it's gonna be pretty calm here, and then it should get pretty crazy. But I think we'll do okay in the more hectic segments of this run. Once you get the infinite bounce, as long as you don't get super unlucky with how many of your shots become infinite piercing shots, it's not too big of a deal. And at this point, we have so much pierce that we should be able to even on our non-bouncing shots, do quite a bit of damage. I guess it is important to note that you do, there is some inherent synergy here, right, with this build with Spark. You do get a lot of hits, right? Spark procs lightning based on, I think is it every third hit? I forget now, actually. But you do get a lot of hits, especially when your shots pierce infinitely. They tend to bounce off a lot of people. You know what I should actually do? I should be putting my cursor over the coughing here. Direct lightning towards coughing. I don't know if it actually indicates it specifically anywhere in game, but Electro Mage, oop, lost my shield there. Electro Mage does end up targeting the enemy closest to your cursor with the lightning. I don't know about, maybe also Spark's Inherent Lightning does that too. I'm not sure about that one. I forget now. Oh, I've been shot. Help. There we go. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I ever noticed that every third lightning strike deals double damage. I feel like I have never actually read this text in my life and realized that was part of the effect. The effect was usually more important to me because of the ammo generation. I don't think I ever realized that it did double damage. That's crazy. I am a buffoon sometimes. Wow. Anywho, not that it matters too much, which is kind of funny. The lightning itself, you don't care too much about how much damage it's doing. You're just trying to proc as many instances as possible of it. And then you take the Electro Mage Finale perk, which adds like flat damage to the lightning as well. That's kind of how you play Spark in general. Here it is. Look at that. You see, it increases damage by 12. That's like the idea here, is that it's make as much lightning as possible, and then Electro Mastery just adds flat damage to it. And that's kind of how you play the character usually. Right, which is why this is pretty potent, right? We have all these hit procs from the knives bouncing infinitely, right? That's like the theory, and then the result is supposed to be big damage via lightning generation. The problem is that it's a little inconsistent, right? In my opinion, at least, because it's, you know, you don't always get those infinite bouncing knives. Anywho. We're through the hardest part of the game now. It should be pretty easy from here on out. You know what's funny, though? We did take damage. There's a very good chance that if we taken Tome of Glass, we would have died right then and there. So I'm happy we didn't take it. And I'm actually kind of struggling a bit here right now, too. Oh, there we go. That was an infinite knife bounce. There we go. Okay. Get a little hemmed in there. But something like this, even though the bounces, even though the knives bounce infinitely, they do not generate nearly. Take assassin here, by the way. Do not generate nearly as much bullet proc hits as something like an SMG, with just a decent amount of piercing shots, right? Because they just output so many more raw bullets. Anywho, So I'm a little bit focusing right now. Sorry, you have to forgive me. A little bit in the gamer zone right now. Okay. It's also, listen. Oh, you know what? We should just take Frost Mage here to be safe. Oh, fuck it. Let's go light bullets. Frost Mage too easy, too boring. I want bigger numbers and faster numbers. Oh, had a dodge proc there. That helped out quite a bit. Yeah, if we had taken Tome of Glass, I think we would have died. I don't think the damage numbers it would have given us would have been so impactful, as opposed to Tome of Stillness, that it would have mattered. Ooh, pretty tough choice here. Gun Mastery versus Splinter. I'm gonna take Splinter, I think. The damage that the bullets create, not that big of a deal. It's the procs. It's, again, we're trying to get as many hits as possible. So Splinter, when you're shooting at, you know, a cluster of enemies and they die and explode, you're getting a lot more impact procs from those bullets, which will generate more lightning, which will be good for us. Gun Mastery is pretty good there too, though. Don't get me wrong. Just having a general increase in all my numbers would be helpful here. It's not so important. Anywho. Here comes the boss. You know what? It's back again, but I think we gotta take Firestarter because we do want Overload for this build. It is pretty important that a lightning build has Overload. I immediately just walked into that mob there. Unfortunate. I'm trying my best to fire the salvo knives, the back shot out salvo knives at least, at the boss here. Get as much single target damage as I can on it. But the issue with that, not an issue really, I think it's worth it, but we keep in mind that we are firing our Gales forward. We're not getting the Gale bonus damage that we'd like here, but the Gale doesn't really matter too much. Gale, you should think about this game in terms of hedging, right? When you hedge your bets, you try to set up your bets that way, no matter the worst case scenario, you lose as little money as possible, right? That's like the idea kind of it. Like, you know, this game is a lot about that. It reminds me of Slice and Dice in that way, where a lot of times you'll end up taking a worse item if it ends up being better in a worst case scenario, right? For example, Bag of Knives, right? If you're familiar with Slice and Dice, Bag of Knives is not a very good item on a lot of characters, but it's a really good item on Statue. It turns Statue into like a viable endgame character, basically, right? And you might take bag of knives over a otherwise better item, because if you see statue, you'll be very happy, right? And the ultimate cost to you is very little, right? The other tier 1 item, statistically, not actually that important for you, right? It might help you in like a battle or two, but ultimately the impact will be very little from not having that item. So that's the idea, at least in this game, is that we took the arrow magic, the gales, because if we saw Tome of Wind and we ended up going the speed build with our knives, we'd be a lot happier right now. Now we're seeing those. Oh, whoop, they both died. Very cool. We're seeing what we were talking about before about the lack of single target damage. That took us 2 minutes to kill that boss. I guess we'll take the Tome of Elements here. That's a pretty good bonus for us. And then here we get Electro Affinity. We get a lot more lightning damage now. So that's cool. I think it should be smooth sailing from here on out. But it was a little more hectic than I would have liked. But it's whatever. Someone left a comment recently too. I forget who it was. It might have been Layla. I forget. Maybe it was Layla. Someone left a comment recently about how they hope that they add a wind character that focuses on arrow magic more. I agree, that'd be pretty cool. Arrow magic since the rework has felt incredibly bad. Not to be too rude to it, but arrow magic was a cool part of the reload builds before. If you weren't familiar, way back when, not way back when, it wasn't that long ago, but late into, or I think maybe I was out with the 1.0 updates when it happened. I don't know. It was late into early access or during 1.0. The mini clip perk was reworked. It used to give you negative 999 ammo, which maybe would sound worse than the current version just at face value, but it ended up actually being a really important thing for a lot of different builds. A lot of the strongest builds in the game actually relied on triggering reloads, right? Because a lot of cool stuff happens when you reload your gun. Smite triggers, arrow magic triggers, etc., right? A lot of stuff happens when you do that. So there's a lot of ways to abuse it, and a lot, you know, it got reworked to the point now where it only gives you, what, -5 bullets instead of negative 999. So that's no longer really a viable strategy, except for on like a weapon like shotgun. Shotgun, you can still kind of do it, because you can just not take many magazine extensions, and you can take mini clip and then do the same build. But you lost some of those, again, reload procs. Out of these, I guess we'll take sniper. Doesn't matter too much here. But you lost things like, oh, what's it called? You lost arrow magic. You lost one other one, I think. Fanfire was one too, but that's still on reload. But Fanfire wasn't a super powerful proc. Maybe there's something else you actually lost. I forget though now. Smite you still have on reload, but it doesn't matter because Sword just has a better Smite build now. One other thing too that was really important about those builds is that how do I take any of these? I guess I take Divine Wrath here. By the way, the Holy Arts Smite, one of the ones that also cares about reloading. Well, also important to note, the wording here isn't even reloading, it's shooting your last ammo. So the big driver of builds like this were things like Spark's ability to refill ammo, right? And Spark was like one of the best reload builds in the game, right? Because her character-specific perk of giving you ammo back every 3 lightning strikes would affect, because it was very easy in a single shotgun strike to proc many different lightning bolts, right? It was very much, you effectively shoot the gun as if you had infinite ammo, and then also you would get the lightning proc still, or you get the reload proc still, and it was like very strong. The point I'm trying to make is that it was very strong. And arrow magic wasn't even the strongest part of the build, but it is unfortunate that now arrow magic had a spot in, like, you know, meta builds, if you want to call it that, and now it just has nothing. Long story short, it would be cool, I agree, if they added a character that cared more about arrow magic. Oh, it's important to note that arrow magic is still good for movement speed builds, right? They just don't care about the tornadoes at all. That's just a non-factor in those builds. You take arrow magic because one of the perks gives you move speed bonuses. That's it, Windborne. That's the only reason why. There's not many perks in the game that give you move speed bonuses, and that's one of them. So, there you go. Anywho, game's almost over. Still waiting for listen, I've been rambling about it for millions and millions of years at this point. Two things are you know, would love to see in the game. I guess this is a new one. Arrow magic actually being useful for like a arrow magic focused character would be cool. I would like that. The big thing for me though, and I've been rambling about it forever, we gotta have an ice lightning synergy perk, right? It's just so weird that the trio is not completed in that way, right? There's these all suck, by the way. There's fire lightning synergy. There's fire ice synergy. Why no ice lightning synergy? Anyway, video's over. Thanks for watching. Next one will be going to the temple, and we'll do maybe what build do we want to do for that one? I don't know. Maybe we'll do, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.